Hi, friends. Today I want to share a powerful story with you. A story about strength, second chances, and quiet success. So sit back, relax, and enjoy. Let's begin. The Ashcraft family held big dinners every month, but they were less about enjoying food and more about showing off who had the most money. Tonight, at their huge house near Napa Valley, I knew it would be especially hard to sit through. I took my usual seat near the fireplace and stayed quiet while my cousins tried to outdo each other with their bragging. "I just bought a ranch in Jackson Hole," Preston said proudly, swirling his wine. "Right next to a guy who owns half of Silicon Valley." "Please," Cassandra said, opening her fancy clutch with flair. "We just bought a vineyard in Tuscany. It has private access to the Mediterranean Sea. You can't even put a price on that." I hid a smile behind my glass of iced tea. If only they knew the truth. "Norah," Aunt Evelyn suddenly said, her voice sharp, "you've been very quiet." Preston leaned in with fake concern. "We were just wondering where you're living these days." "Here it comes." "What about it?" I asked, setting down my glass. "That small duplex in Portland," he said. "You're still renting, right?" "The one on Alder Street," Cassandra added with a fake shocked face. "Didn't know people our age still rented." I almost laughed. That building was actually the first property I bought through my company, Westpine Holdings. They thought I was a broke tenant. In truth, I was the owner. "I like the space," I said calmly. "You're 35, sweetie," Evelyn said with a fake smile. "It's time to grow up and buy something real." "Real?" "How about a $1.8 billion portfolio of apartment buildings, office towers, and even Ashcraft Plaza, the very place we were having dinner? I bought it 6 months ago, quietly, through a private investment group they couldn't trace back to me." "I'm doing just fine," I said. Preston smirked. "You probably can't even afford a mortgage." I leaned back and let them talk. Soon, they'd get a lease renewal. And guess whose name would be on it? Dad finally looked up from his wine. Now, Preston. Not everyone has your business sense. Norah just chose a different path." Aunt Evelyn sighed, clearly disappointed I hadn't married rich or become a famous influencer. "They thought I spent my days showing cheap apartments to broke students and barely making ends meet. But what they didn't know was that Norah Hail, the failure of the family, was actually the owner of Westpine Holdings, the company quietly buying up properties all over the Pacific Northwest for the last 10 years. "Speaking of real estate," Cassandra said with a smug smile, "have you heard what's happening on Alder Street? Some company bought the whole block. They're going to tear it all down," she added, pretending to feel sorry. "Looks like your little apartment will be gone soon." I kept my face calm. I was the one who bought the block, and I had no plans to tear anything down. I was restoring the buildings with care, keeping rents low for families who had lived there for decades. "Really?" I said. I hadn't heard. "Of course not," Preston said. "Deals like that are way too big for someone like you. If you get kicked out," Evelyn said cheerfully, "you can always move back into the guest house. We'll help you find something more respectable. Maybe even someone respectable." "I'm happy," I said flatly. "And so is my landlord." Cassandra laughed, but it sounded forced. "You can't live such a small life forever, dear. The Hale name used to mean something around here." It still did, just not how they thought. In the real estate world, Westpine Holdings stood for fairness and protecting renters. Nothing like the flashy, selfish projects my cousins were known for, where they knocked down neighborhoods just to show off. "Actually," Dad said, putting down his wine glass, "part of tonight is about business. The board's worried about the new owner of Ashcraft Plaza." I tilted my head, playing dumb. "Westpine Holdings bought most of it 6 months ago," he explained. "No one knows who's behind it. Maybe a foreign investor." Preston nodded. "Has to be. Those kinds of buyers love historic buildings." If only they knew the mystery buyer was sitting right in front of them, in a thrift store cardigan and old boots. "And now," Dad continued, "they're asking hard questions, especially about our accounting." He meant all the shady spending, like how Preston used building funds to pay for his new ranch, or how Cassandra claimed her designer purses were business expenses. "I'm sure it's nothing serious," Aunt Evelyn said, clearly nervous. The Hale name still means something. That's the problem, Dad said. This West Pine person doesn't care about names. They've ordered a full audit. I saw the panic in their eyes, even though they tried to hide it behind fake smiles. An audit would reveal everything they'd been hiding. Maybe Norah can help, Cassandra said sweetly. She works in real estate, right? Maybe she knows someone at the management company. Just like that, I went from being ignored to being useful. I usually handle small residential clients, I said with a calm smile. Nothing as big as Ashcraft Plaza. For God's sake, Preston snapped. You can't even help your own family. Mom gave him a look, but didn't say anything. Even Dad had gone back to scrolling on his phone. No one stood up for me, but that was fine, because they didn't know how much help I was really about to give, just not the kind they wanted. Tomorrow, West Pine Holdings would make a public announcement. Ashcraft Plaza was about to change. No more hidden budgets. No more family favors. No more treating the building like a personal piggy bank. I looked around the luxury penthouse. The art, bought with repair funds. The furniture, overpriced and paid for with building money. The fancy lights, installed by Cassandra's husband's company, at double the real cost. Anyway, I said, standing up and brushing off my jeans. Some of us have early mornings. Cassandra smirked. Off to show more cheap apartments? I picked up my worn leather bag. Inside were papers for the board, legal documents, and renovation plans worth more than everything in this room. Norah and Evelyn called in a fake sweet voice. Next time, maybe dress like a real Hale. Looks matter. I smiled. Don't worry, I said. Tomorrow I'll look exactly like what a Hale should be. They just didn't know I already was. If you've been cheering for Norah, don't miss what happens when the boardroom doors open. Subscribe to the channel to see how the family reacts when they realize the nobody they ignored actually owns it all. The next morning, I stood in my real office, a penthouse floor overlooking downtown Portland, getting ready for the moment I had worked toward for over a year. My assistant, Isla, came in quickly and placed a cappuccino next to my laptop. The Ashcraft Plaza board is already seated, she said. Your family came early. They're trying to charm the independent board members. I smiled, picturing Preston and Cassandra trying to win people over. All audit packets are printed and handed out. The forensic team found even more than we expected. She paused. Are you sure you want to go through with this? Once they find out the truth, there's no going back. They need to learn, I said softly. Legacy isn't a free pass to misuse power. I looked into the glass and saw my reflection. No more jeans and cardigan. Today, I wore a sharp navy suit, the kind Aunt Evelyn always wanted me to wear to meet a husband. But I wasn't here to find a husband. I was here to break down their false world. The ownership announcement goes live in 20 minutes, Isla said. After that, everyone will know who you really are. Then let's get started, I said, picking up my briefcase. When I walked into the Ashcraft Plaza boardroom, the room went silent. My family was gathered at the far end, looking nervous and out of place. Who are you? Preston snapped. This is a private meeting. I calmly set my briefcase down at the head of the table. I'm Norah Hail, I said. I'm the founder and sole owner of West Pine Holdings, the company that owns this building and several others your family abused. Evelyn went pale. Cassandra's mouth opened, but she couldn't say a word. Dad gripped his pen tightly. Norah, he whispered. I nodded. Good morning. I opened the briefcase and pushed audit reports across the table. Shall we look at your financial records? This is crazy, Preston stammered. You what? I asked. The black sheep, the renter, the woman who wears secondhand clothes? Cassandra blinked. But you show apartments. I work, I said simply. And I built something real, with honesty. Not just an illusion. The board stared as the proud Hale family started to fall apart, page by page. These folders, I said, show every misused dollar, every inflated bill, every fake receipt connected to Ashcraft Plaza. I handed out the final papers. Preston, can you explain the $2 million roof repair that paid for your ranch in Jackson Hole? He turned bright red. And Cassandra, I continued, care to explain your husband's plumbing bills that charged 3 times the normal price? You'd expose your own family like this? Aunt Evelyn gasped. No, I said calmly. You already exposed yourselves. I'm just making sure it's cleaned up. Dad finally spoke, voice low and desperate. Norah, sweetheart, we can explain. Don't, I said, raising my hand. I watched this family use our great-grandfather's legacy like an ATM. While you mocked my humble life, I was building something better, based on values, not show. But why? Cassandra asked, shocked. Why pretend to struggle? I didn't pretend, I replied. I lived simply and invested wisely. You thought being rich meant being flashy. The Alder Street building, Preston said, stunned. You really live there? I own it, I said. And most of the block. And no, I'm not tearing it down because some of us care about people, not just money. Suddenly, phones buzzed. A board member looked up, reading. West Pine Holdings reveals CEO's identity. Norah Hail, a quiet member of the Hail family, confirmed as owner of a $2 billion real estate portfolio. Ranked top ethical developers, preserving history, protecting tenants. This will ruin us, Cassandra whispered, looking pale. No, I said firmly. This will save you from yourselves. Starting today, I continued, Ashcraft Plaza will be run openly. No more hiding money. No more family favors. If we don't follow... Preston tried to sound tough, but his voice shook. He smiled. Then I'll send these reports to the authorities. The IRS will be interested. A heavy silence filled the room. What do you want? Dad finally asked. I want you to remember what the Hail name once meant, I said, looking each of them in the eye. Our great-grandfather built communities, not just made money. I stood, gathering my papers. You have 2 choices. Work with me to restore that legacy, or find somewhere else to live. I hear Lake Oswego has some nice rentals. I turned to leave. Norah, wait, Dad called out just before I reached the door. I was wrong about you. Yes, I said quietly. You were? What followed was like a business drama. The media loved the story of the quiet Hail daughter who secretly built a real estate empire and took down her family's lies in one meeting. Aunt Evelyn quit several boards, too ashamed to show her face. Cassandra's husband's company closed within weeks. But not everything was bad. He went back to school for real estate, and Cassandra started volunteering at a shelter. She said it gave her more meaning than her fancy parties ever did. And Dad? He asked to learn the business, not to take control, but to understand what I'd built. 6 months later, I sat in my Alder Street apartment. Yes, I kept it, looking over new reports. Ashcraft Plaza was doing well. Tenants were happy, leases stable, and small shops on the first floor were thriving. A knock at the door broke my focus. It was Mom, wearing jeans and no makeup. It took me a moment to adjust to how casual she looked. I got your invitation, she said, holding up a card. The courtyard holiday party. I nodded. It's not really your scene. No, she admitted, glancing around my simple home. But I'm learning that maybe the scene isn't everything. She picked up a photo of me at 23, smiling at my real estate license ceremony. I never asked, she said softly, why you chose this path. Because I wanted to build something real, I answered. Not just buy things to show off. And now, she said quietly, you control more than all of us. I do, I said. But control isn't the goal. Purpose is. She looked at me seriously. Will you teach me? Come tonight, I said. Meet the families who've lived here for decades. Listen to them. That's where legacy really starts. Later, I stood by the window, watching the city lights twinkle across Portland, the city I'd quietly made mine. Ashcraft Plaza shone in the distance, no longer a symbol of greed, but one of care and renewal. Below, Alder Street buzzed with life, brick walls, wooden beams, and gardens preserved with love. My phone buzzed with messages. offers to partner, speaking invites, deals. West Pine Holdings was in demand, but I kept my schedule balanced, my routine grounded. Success wasn't about showing off. It was about building something meaningful that lasts. Sometimes the person they pity is the one they have to learn from. Sometimes the best victory is quiet, and it lasts. If you've ever been underestimated or ignored, maybe you see a bit of yourself in me. I didn't try to prove them wrong, I just wanted to build something real. What would you do if you were in my shoes? What have you built quietly while others doubted you? Comment below. Let's talk about the quiet work, the hard nights, and the tough choices. And if you're at a point where no one expects anything from you, don't shout louder, just build stronger. You don't need anyone's approval to start. You need purpose and patience. Everything else will follow. Support this journey by subscribing. More stories are coming about strength, second chances, and defining success on your own terms. Because legacy isn't what you inherit, it's what you create. And sometimes, the best revenge isn't revenge at all, it's becoming exactly who they said you couldn't be. So subscribe, stay with me, and let's build something that lasts.